Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we're doing another reviews and ratings episode where I review and rate all the different games I've been playing in the past 2 weeks with friends, family, and even solo by myself. And we're going to be talking about 8 different games on this week's episode. And we're going to start with my least favorite games and go to my favorite games for this section of games. And I'm just going to give a quick, brief overview, hopefully, of all of these games, give my personal thoughts on it, and then give a final rating. So let's start with the bottom of the list and then go up to my favorites. And the first game we're going to talk about this week is The Ruins of Mars. Now, this is a game that has sat on my shelf for like 2 years, and finally I broke it out. I read the rule book. I'm like, okay, so there's some interesting things going on here. So I put it up, started playing it, and in this game, you basically have 5 different areas where you can take an action at. And underneath these actions are going to be tiles. These tiles are going to show what resources or what tracks you can move up on. And those are the 2 things that you're basically doing in this game. The 2 different actions are taking resources or moving up the track. And the tiles below each of those actions is going to depict what you're going to do. So if you're taking the track action, you're just going to move up on the tracks that are depicted on the tiles below that action. If you're taking the resources, you take the resources that are depicted below that action. And you're just going to be moving up these tracks, and the further up these tracks you go, the more points you get. And then you need these resources in order to buy these extra tiles that go into your own personal player board. And those tiles are going to give you different special abilities, maybe a one-time action or an ongoing ability. And at the end of the game, you want your rows of these player boards filled out, and you want specific types of these tiles in there, because they're going to get more points for the same type of tile or all different tiles. And they're going to get, if you finish a row and it's just a mismatch of those 2, you're just going to get the least amount of points. At the end of the game, however far you up on that track, you're going to score points and for your personal player board for those tiles that you got. This game is going to get a 5 rating from me. There's not much that I liked about this game. I thought the idea of moving this place around is interesting, but once you take a specific place's action, the tiles that are underneath it all get shuffled up and distributed throughout the rest of the boards. And it's a pretty obvious thing of where you want to take your action, because you usually just want to take it where the most tiles are, because that's where you're going to get the more resources or the moving up on the track more. And so I thought that got very repetitive, very monotonous, and it's a very long game for what this is. You're looking at about an hour and a half for this game, and I think this game would be good if it was 20 to 30 minutes. But other than that, it's obvious choices, and it's monotonous, and it's long. Not a good combination for myself. So yeah, a 5 rating for Ruins of Mars, unfortunately. Let's go on to the next games, which the next game, from here on out, I pretty much think all of them are pretty decent games. The next game on this list is Cryptid. Cryptid is a pretty popular game. This is a deduction game where you have a giant board. I shouldn't say giant, but there's a board in front of all the players, and it's got all these different tiles on it of different terrain types. Now, everybody gets a clue at the beginning of the game, and that clue tells you where the cryptid can possibly live. Everybody has one clue, and we're all trying to figure out where the cryptid lives. So you get a clue, I get a clue. And on your turn, you are trying to find out where the cryptid does live. There's one specific spot where the cryptid can live that complies with everybody's clues. On your turn, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're either going to place a marker in a specific spot and ask a specific person, can the cryptid live here according to your clue? And they'll say yes or no, and put a token down that represents a yes or a no. So then you get a little bit more information about their clue, hopefully. And if you think you know where the cryptid is, you can also search a spot. Rather than asking people questions, you can search a spot, and then you go around the table asking everybody if it complies with their specific clue, and if it does, you have found where the cryptid lives. The cryptid can only live in one specific spot on that board. So that's what you're trying to do. This is going to get a 6.5 rating from me, but I think it's almost an unfair rating, because this game, I think it's a brilliant design, it's clever, it's witty, But I don't think my brain works very good for this game, because all the games that we played, I really struggled to figure out what anybody's clues ever were. Um, Other people said they were kind of getting it, but it just wasn't working well for my group, I don't think. Um, I think I'm going to keep it though, because it's interesting and it's easy to teach, easy to learn. But some of those games, like, we couldn't figure out where the cryptid lived, and we were running out of tokens, that our own personal tokens to lay down, because everybody was just like, I nobody knew where the cryptid was, and we were just, at the end we were just guessing constantly. Is the cryptid here? No. Okay, is the cryptid here? No. Is the cryptid here? So it drug on for some of those games, and so I think it's a good game, but it didn't really work for myself, because maybe my brain just doesn't work how this game wants your brain to work. So let's go on to the next game. Next game is an older game. This is Elder Sign. This is a dice allocation game set in the Arkham Horror Files series of games. So you got that Cthulhu theme in this. But the theme is very, very weak, I would say, in this game. You basically have a bunch of locations out on the board. Well, there's no board, but there's a bunch of different location cards. And on your turn, you can go to one of the locations, and you have a handful of dice. And the location has a couple different rows of symbols, and you're trying to roll these dice in order to roll the specific symbols. You have to fill out one row at a time on your roll, so you can't put dice on multiple rows. You have to finish one row at a time in order to move on to the other ones. So you're going to roll those dice, put those dice on there. If you can't finish a row, you lose one of the dice. So it gets harder and harder the more times you fail each of these rolls. And so if you do complete it, roll all the symbols basically for each of the rows, you're going to get some kind of bonus. Whether it is more dice on other turns, whether it's some kind of special ability, there's a couple different things that can happen. You can also get Elder Signs, and that's how you're going to win the game. This is a cooperative game. So you're going to win or lose as a team. And you want to get as many Elder Signs as the specific mythos monster is that you're versing in that game. If you don't succeed, there's going to be bad things that happen. You're going to lose health, and your players only have so much health. You could lose a couple different things, or you could put doom tracks on, and if the doom track gets so far, then the mytho monster comes out and basically kills you right away. So yeah, this game is going to get a 6.5 from me, and I'm only talking about the base game. There's a ton of expansions for this game now, and I've heard that some of them really help this game. But for the base game, I think it's just an average game for that. I like the theme, but the theme really doesn't come out in that, and maybe that's why it only gets 6.5 rating from me. And there's other games, specifically the next game, that I think use this sort of system, but better. So that being said, let's go to the next game. The next game is Death Eaters Rising, which is a part of a series of games that I really like, but this one has the Harry Potter theme. There's several different games in this series. There's a Marvel themed one, there's a SpongeBob themed one, there's a Star Wars one, there is a Batman one, and there's also, they keep coming out with them. Yeah, there's a few more coming out too that I know of. But yeah, it's a game that it uses that system that Elder Signs has basically made, where you are allocating dice. You have a handful of dice, and you're going to be rolling them, trying to do different things. In the center board, there is going to be, in this game, it's going to be Lord Voldemort, and he's going to be rotating around this board, and he's going to be attacking you, and you're getting attacked, losing health, losing players, and activating other bad guys. So as soon you're going to roll him, and he's going to turn and do the bad things, then it's your turn, and you're going to roll a certain amount of dice according to your player board and according to other characters that you have in front of you in your tableau. You're going to roll your dice and assign them to specific characters in that region that you went to. If you can assign it to good guys trying to recruit them, and the people just need specific signs, just like Elder Sign. If you roll all of their symbols, you get to recruit that character into your tableau. And the more characters you have, the more special abilities you get, and more dice you could possibly get. If there's a bad guy, you're trying to put dice of that specific symbol on them and basically do damage to them until they have been killed. In this game, you have to kill so many of these bad guys, and then you can come after Lord Voldemort and kill him. And so there's this balancing act of trying to recruit characters and trying to kill the bad guys and kill Lord Voldemort. This is going to get a 7 rating from me. It's my least favorite of the series that I've played so far, but it's still a good game. It's still a system that I like, but I think maybe the Harry Potter theme just didn't do it for me in this one. I'm not quite sure, but I found myself not enjoying it as much as the other Rising games that I've played, specifically Thanos Rising. So let's go to the next game on our list, the 5th game. This is Auztralia, but with a Z. Now this is another Cthulhu-themed game, but it's set in Australia. Now you are in Australia, and there's a bunch of these bad monsters, these mythos monsters, that are basically taking over Australia. And you are trying to build like this a railroad track into Australia, trying to do a couple different things. You can recruit military into your own team to try and battle these mythos monsters. And if you do battle them, there's an interesting card system that's going to fight them. You're flipping over cards, and that card tells you what specific military units attack what specific monsters. And likewise for the bad guys, they're going to be hitting you back. So you can build railroad tracks, you can collect resources, which you'll need those resources. You can get these people and put them into your base, and they're going to give you some sort of special ability. You can also build out farms, which are going to get you points at the end of the game and get you money, and you'll need money throughout the game. And this is just an interesting Martin Wallace game. It's going to get I think a 7 rating from myself. There's some things that I really like in this game, and there's things that I don't really like. The thing that I don't really like is it feels a little bit fiddly to me, but the thing that I really like is that, most games that are competitive, because this is a competitive game, but it's also you kind of have to be cooperative, and that usually doesn't work for me, but in this game it does, because you as a team of people are going to have to try and clear out these monsters that are in Australia. If you don't and the end game is triggered, the monsters actually score points at the end of the game. And if you don't beat the monsters, the monster team wins. So none of you win. So you're going to have to kind of work together collectively to kind of wipe out the presence of these bad things. And if you don't, they're going to win. But if you do wipe them out, then you're going to win, and whoever's got the most points wins. So I think that part's really interesting and works, but it is a bit fiddly. I will say, if I only had 50 games in my collection, this might be one that I would consider, because it feels unique, it feels different, and it's fun. And I think this game would reward repeat play, but I have too many games where I can't play a game, 100 times. I play games 10 to 20 times. And this one is one of those games that, I'll probably play it 10 times total over the years, but maybe once a year. But it will reward repeat play, I think. Let's go on to the next game. The next game is a game that sat on my shelf for a long time before I got it out this last week. This is Raccoon Tycoon. This is sort of a economic stock market sort of game, and it's very light, very simple, but very fun. In this game, there's just a few different actions that you can take. You can either play a production card, which gets you certain materials, certain resources, according to that card, but then it also moves the stock market price on certain different materials. Like you might get 2 iron and a wood from this card, but then it might move up like wine and wood on the stock market price. You can also sell goods in this game. You can sell the goods that you have acquired throughout the game, and however much money you get for those goods depends on where the stock market price is for that specific good. You can also spend your money by bidding on these railroad tracks. These railroad things and these specific railroads, and it's sort of a set collection, but you're going to have to auction off these railroads. So you're trying to get a set collection of certain things so you can make people try to outbid you for this, or buy a certain type. And there's also these tiles that will go in front of you that are going to have some sort of special ability, and you'll get points for them at the end of the game as well. So it's a really interesting game. I really like it. It's going to get a 7.5 for me, but I think it possibly could go way up if I continue to play this game, which I want to. I played it 2 or 3 times last week, and I think I'm bringing it to game night tonight again. So I really liked it. Let's go to another game. This is our 7th game of the week. This is a small card game. This is Arboretum. Arboretum is a tree-themed game. And you are going to have a hand of cards of different tree types, and those trees are also going to have numbers on them. And on your turn, you are going to draw 2 cards. And you can draw from a deck of cards, which is unknown, or you can draw from a discard pile, anybody's discard pile. You are then going to lay a card, a tree card, into your own specific player tableau, and then you are going to discard a card, which leaves it open for other players. You are trying to build a set of these types of trees in a row, like in ascending order, whether it is ascending from left to right or right to left or top to bottom or some kind of combination of the two. But you have to have just an ascending order of trees of specific types, basically. And at the end of the game, you're going to score points based on the cards that you have in front of you. But the person who gets to score specific tree types is the person who's got the most points worth of trees in their hand. So you want to lay these cards out, but you also want to keep them in your hand to score, make sure you score them. And it's a weird, interesting, thinky, just balancing act that you have to do. This is going to get a 8 rating from me. It's a game that I've liked over the last couple of years. It's simple to teach, but it's very complex and thinky. It's got a lot of depth to it, and it just makes you think a lot in this game. So yeah, an 8 for Arboretum. Let's go to our next game, which is Pan Am. This is a Prospero Hall game, which have made some really good games, in my opinion. They've also made some stinkers, but this is one that I really like. This is a worker placement game set with this airplane theme. And on your turn, you're going to place one of your workers down in the different specific spots that you have. And there's basically a bidding track on a lot of these spots, where if you want to build an airport, you put it on an airport spot, and the place you put it has a number beside it, and that's how much money you're going to have to pay after the round, after you get done placing all of these, and you're going to get the right to build that airport. But other people can place their worker higher than yours, and then you take your worker back if it's surpassed on that bid, and you get to use that worker later. So there's all these bidding tracks. So there's airport spots, there's card spots, which you'll need the cards, there's airplane spots, which you need the airplanes, and there are route spots, which you need the routes in order to put out your planes. There are also this other spot that gets you big special cards that will do big special events, big special things. At the end, when everybody's done placing their workers out and nobody has any left, then you start taking your workers back and getting that action, paying for them. And basically, you are trying to place out planes onto specific routes on this map. But in order to place a plane, you obviously have to have a plane. In order to place the plane, you have to have the cards that are from one route, the beginning of one route to the end of one route. If you don't, you can spend different types of cards to do different things, but you really want the specific locations of them, because you're not going to have to spend them then. There are also, you're going to have to pay for planes in order to get those, and you have to have those routes in order to place out the planes, obviously. Now, this game is interesting. It really is. So at the end of the round, you're going to roll this Pan Am dice, and Pan Am is going to spread its influence out and build out routes. And if they happen to build out a route where you have one of your planes, they buy your plane, or they buy that route from you, and you get your plane back. And you want them to come into your spot. They want them to buy your routes, because you get a lot of money back. After that, you get the option of buying stock, and this is how you're going to win the game, is buying stock from Pan Am. Each round, Pan Am is at a specific amount of money, one stock. It might be 6 this round, but next round it might be 7 or 8. Because at the beginning of each round, you're going to flip over a card that's going to dictate how much Pan Am stock is worth that round. So you're going to have to try and guess the market, basically. And each of these rounds is going to have a different special event as well. This is going to get an 8 rating from me. I really like this game. I really like the special event cards. They're big, powerful things. But it kind of reminds me of Viticulture in like those visitor cards. If you don't like the visitor cards in Viticulture, you're not going to like the cards in Pan Am. They can be pretty powerful cards. They can do some pretty awesome things, but I like them. So yeah, it's going to get an 8 rating from me. It's a really well done game. Let's go on to the next game, the best game in my opinion on this list, the 9th game of this week. This is Castell. Castell has been in my top 10 games of all time for like 4 years now. I really like this game. Big spoiler. Now in this, it's a very interesting theme. The theme is castelling. That is a Catalonian sport of building these giant human towers. If you've never seen Castell on YouTube, go look it up because it's super interesting and it makes me very nervous watching it, but it blows my mind. You need to go watch that. Now, in this game, you are trying to build your own specific Castell troupe of characters. And on your turn, you have 3 actions, possibly 4, that you're going to do in any order that you want to do it. You can move when you're castelling meeple around to a connected region. You can recruit the castellers that are in that region, and you can also train in those regions. And each region is going to train in a specific attribute for building up your castellers. And there is a very specific way that you can build your Castell pyramid, your human pyramid, basically. But you can train in these different attributes that break those rules. And you're going to train in strength and balance. And there's 5 different things that you can train in. And basically breaks all the rules for that to help you build bigger, better pyramids. And at the end of the round, there could be a festival at your specific locations. And if there's multiple people there, you're going to compete basically to build the best human pyramid of the type that is wanted there. Because in specific regions, they want specific numbers of castellers. And so you're going to try to build this big Castell tower with specific numbered castellers. It's a very interesting, very thinky game. Pretty heavy, I would say, but very fun. This is going to get a 10 rating from me. Like I said, it's been in my top 10 for a long time now, and every time I play it, it reminds me why it is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. So yeah, that perfect 10. And that will complete it. Let's finish with the perfect 10. Either way, comment below if you've played some of these games, if you haven't, if there's some of them that you're really interested in trying. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care, everyone.